Good afternoon to everybody. We have gathered here to discuss about the post-pandemic scenario. And no doubt, we are undergoing a very difficult situation these days. For the last 7 months, we are suffering from COVID-19. Almost all the world, entire world is suffering from it. And more than 1 crore and 56 lakh people were infected. Out of which more than 6 lakhs have died. It's a very sad state of affairs in India also. We are suffering a lot. More than 13 lakh have been infected as of now, and 30,000 have died. Almost the entire nation, the entire world has come to a halt. No industry, no work. Everybody was forced to go under confinement, which we call lockdown. So this is a scenario from where you have to rise up. And if you talk of the post-pandemic scenario, we don't see any hope in the next few months. So whatever you have to do, you have to visualize and you have to depend on this information intelligence, information technology, digital technology. Let me come to the history of it. About say 50 years back, internet came into being. It was the 60s, and internet is just the network of networks which connects the computers all over the world. And World Wide Web came into being only say about 30 years back. You must have heard of Higgs boson, which was discovered in CERN. So there is a scientist, Lee, who discovered this WWW, just out of compulsion that he wanted to connect it with the scientists all over the world and share the data. So, but the first web was created in 1991, and after that, the figure has crossed 1 billion. So you can see the amount of growth in this area. We can go just to refresh your memory, or for your memory. International community wanted to make some law to control the information technology. And United Nations resolved a resolution in the late 90s and sent it to the countries of the world. India was the 12th country to sign over that. And first act was enacted in 2000, and it was made effective on 17th October 2000. And it was called Information Technology Act 2000. In 2008, it was amended. And the amendment was with regard to certain provisions which were not there in the original enactment. And few clauses were also amended in 2011. And sections 43A, 79, and 6A, they were added. Now, what is this Information Technology Act? The Information Technology Act 2000 is an act of the Indian Parliament notified on 17th October 2000. The original act was developed to promote the IT industry, regulate e-commerce, facilitate e-governance, and prevent cybercrime. The act also sought to foster security practices within India that would serve the country in a global context. The amendment was created to address issues that the original bill failed to cover and to accommodate further development of IT and related security concerns since the original law was passed. And what is the objectives of this act? The objective is very clear. Since websites were created, connectivity was ensured, and there was a boom so far as interneting was there. But at the same time, this traffic was not being controlled. So everybody was free to do anything what he likes. So international communities, which I had just referred to, wanted to codify the things, to regulate the things. So the main objective of the act was to grant legal recognition to all transactions done via electronic exchange of data or another electronic means of communication or e-commerce in place of the earlier paper-based method of communication. The second objective was to give legal recognition to digital signatures for the authentication of any information or matters requiring legal authenticity, integrity, and non-repudiation. Facilitate the electronic filing of documents with government agencies and also departments, and to facilitate the electronic storage of data. This is very important. And at the same time, the security is also important so far as the electronic data is stored. As we had seen in the offices, that there is a confidential section where confidential files are stored, and it is kept in such a way that there should not be any easy access to it. Similarly, this electronic storage of data is also very important to be secure. Now, let us see some of the salient features of it. About the amendment. Why amendment was required? In 2008, the Information Technology Amendment Act was passed, and it was made applicable in 2009. It received the assent of the President and it was made applicable. Okay. The use of cyberspace in 26/11, attacks in Mumbai was the root cause of this. You see, when we are talking of technology, it works both ways. It can be treated as a boon, a curse. So it depends upon the user how he uses it. So this episode 26/11 was the outcome of modern technology and so the objectives of the act to provide legal recognition for transactions, and second, to facilitate electronic filing of documents with the government, and third, to amend the Indian Penal Code. This is very important. This is very important that this act was to amend the Indian Penal Code, which was passed in 1860, and the Indian Evidence Act, 1872, the Bankers Book Evidence Act, 1891, and the Reserve Bank of India Act, 1934. This is very important in the sense that the entire transaction, either it comes under the ambit of documents, documentary proceedings, or in the shape of any evidence. So if this is not validated, if this is not recognized, then the entire system would collapse. Simply for the reason that we are switching over a technology. If it is not recognized, then that technological development would not be helpful to us. And the entire aim was to provide legal framework to all electronic records. Let me come to the IT Amendment Act. This is very important. First, I will talk about the introduction of Section 66, which penalizes offensive messages. These message senders are taken into the net. It also introduced Section 69, which gave the power of interception or monitoring or decryption of any information to any computer resource. Why this was required? Because in social media and on so many other platforms, people were not hesitating to send unnecessary messages, obscene messages, and sometimes dangerous games. You must have heard of the Blue Whale. So many children died. So government should have the power to obstruct such things. And this regulation was required only to control all such things, which was not foreseen at that time. Then there comes the privacy. Privacy was sensitive personal information of consumers. Data privacy protection, prevention of cyber crimes. Digital signature was replaced by electronic signature. Prevention from cyber attacks as cyber terrorism. You see a lot of companies are there. And what is the character of a company? Company is a corporate body. And what are corporate bodies? Corporate bodies are those bodies which have perpetual succession and a seal, common seal. And any document processed by that corporate, that company should be signed by a person who has been authenticated for that. So the role of signature, electronic signature is there. If it is not validated, then that document would not be considered as a genuine document under existing law at the time. So this was very important. Now, Section 69A was added, and this is what? This is the blocking rules, allowing the government of Section 69A was added, Section 79 was added, Section 67 and 67 was added, and what is 67 and 67A? Obscene messages, and there was complete no to it. Section 66A is there, which forbids anybody to send any offensive message. Now there comes the freedom of expression. A writ was filed in 2012 by Shreya Singhal. She was a law student at the time. And this writ was filed that these provisions are against the freedom of speech and freedom of expression, which has been guaranteed to the people of India under Article 19 of the Constitution of India. And she succeeded. 66A was struck down because it was found that yes, Supreme Court agreed there should be a discussion and there should be an advocacy of the things, but at the same time there should not be anything that curves the right of a person of freedom of expression. No doubt, Article 19 is subject to certain reasonable restrictions. But these reasonable restrictions should not undermine the dignity of a person, should not undermine the equity provided under the Constitution, Article 14. And you see, we have seen in the preamble of the Constitution itself that right to live is guaranteed under the Constitution in Article 21. And right to live is not only right to live with dignity. So, Supreme Court was of the opinion that this section would not go forward. Okay, this was deleted. But Section 69A and Section 679 were kept alive and it was held constitutional. We all know that any law cannot sustain unless it is constitutionally valid. So, IT Act 2000 received the assent of the Supreme Court also in the sense that it was declared constitutional except for certain provisions. Now let us come back to that part, which is very important. And again, I am coming back to that simply for the reason that this is really important and this would really work under post-pandemic situation. Digital transformation of India. What is our strength? India is the fastest growing e-commerce market and is expected to grow at approximately 1200% by 2026. This has been the estimate. Indian e-commerce market is expected to reach $84 billion by 2021. India's startup ecosystem is growing, which is well supported by favorable FDI policies, government initiatives like Startup India, Digital India, as well as the rising internet penetration driven by market players like Reliance, Jio, etc. The recent rise in digital literacy has led to an influx of investment in e-commerce firms, leveling the market for new players to settle their base while churning out innovative patterns to disrupt old functions. Policy support by the government is very important. We have talked about the growing demand, the attractive opportunities, the increasing investment. Policy support. Yes, the government is for that. In India, 100% FDI is permitted in the B2B commerce. As per the new guidelines on FDI in e-commerce, 100% FDI under automatic route is permitted in the marketplace model of e-commerce. Heavy investment made by the government of India in rolling out fiber network or 5G will help boost e-commerce in India. Now look at the enormity. Internet penetration was 4% in 2007, but it has been recorded as 52% in 2019. In 2020, the results had to be declared. It's not declared. Must be very high post-pandemic COVID-19. So we can see we are the fastest growing country in the world. After China and after US, we are following these two countries which have taken lead. Now again, I am coming back to the legal position, the legal situation, the legal validity of e-transactions. When we are talking of e-commerce, naturally, we should be aware of it, that what should be the legal validity of e-transaction. Section 10A validates it. And this further validates the provisions of the Indian Contract Act 1872. Almost in every field, there is a sort of contract between the two persons, two companies, two entities. There is a very subtle difference between the agreement and the bond. Agreement is not enforceable under law, whereas if it is registered, then it is enforceable under law, and that becomes the contract. In the contract, there is a bar that a minor cannot go into contract, but under this law, he can. So these are the changes. These are the very subtle and very, very important changes. They are going to revolutionize the whole thing, whole situation. Here there is security, authentication, and identification. That is dealt within section 3 and section 3 of the 2008 Act. Again, privacy. As I have told you, 67 and 72, and the new sections are 66E, 67, 67A, 67B, and 72A. These are very important. And this was the requirement why such sections were added in 2008. Data protection. This is a very important aspect. For that, section 43A was included. And a rule 2011 was framed. Information technology, reasonable security practices and procedures, and sensitive personal data information rules 2011 it is called. Then security of systems. For that, section 65 and 66 are relevant and important, and section 66 of 2008. Then again, information technology, reasonable security practices and procedures, and sensitive personal data information. Now you must be confronted with junk mail and spamming. So section 66A is there for that. It would be reframed, of course, after the Supreme Court judgment, but it would be there in some form. Content regulation. I have already told you about that. Content regulation. You should be very careful in sending those contents to the system. For that, section 66A, 67, and 67A is read. And At the same time, major acts, IPC. IPC, I have told you that IPC was also amended. Section 292, 469, 499, 501, 503 of the IPC 1800. This has been amended in the light of this. Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986, Information Technology, Intermediaries Guidelines Rules 2011. Again, a very important sector I am going to talk about, that is intellectual property. For that, Section 43 and 65 is introduced. And what major acts are affected by that? Trademarks Act 99, Copyright Act 1957, Copyright Rules 1958, and Patents Amendment Act 2005. These are very important acts. So they are also amended. Their transactions, electronic transactions, are validated out of them. Very important issue, payment. Payment and Settlement System Act 2007 has been promulgated to account for such things. So this is also important. The taxation of e-commerce and transactions. Any transaction, any financial transaction, if you are an entity like a corporate body, then you will have to go to the income tax for your return. For that, information technology, e-transactions, e-signatures, e-signature certificates, every such things are required there. So for that, Income Tax Act 1961, Service Tax Rules 1994, Finance Act 1994, Central Sales Tax Act 1956, Customs Act 1962, and Central Excise Act 1944 is relevant in those cases, those issues. Intermediary liability. Section 79 is there to protect them. Section 69A, Section 69B, 72A, and 79 of the new Act of 2008. So, Information Technology, Intermediaries Guidelines Rules 2011 was also framed. Copyright Amendment Act 2012 and Patents Amendment Act 2005, are also very relevant in these. Jurisdiction issues, Section 1, 2, and 75 is there. Section 3 of IPC 1860 is relevant, and Consumer Protection Act 1986. So we can see that almost in every walk of life, this has crept in, and this has become the way of our life. But it is not that IT Act is applicable to everything. That every transaction, everything, everywhere it has shown its presence. No. There are certain areas which are still protected from the information. So, the IT Act shall not apply to documents or transactions specified in the first schedule. Every notification issued to amend the first schedule shall be laid before each House of Parliament. Presently, the first schedule contains the following entries. And what are those entries? A negotiable instrument other than check. Because a check is also a negotiable instrument, but check has not been exempted, as defined in Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. So they are not being covered by this. Power of attorney, as defined in Power of Attorney Act 1882. A trust, as defined in Indian Trust Act 1880. A will, as defined in Indian Succession Act 1925, including any other testamentary disposition by whatever name comes. Any contract for sale or conveyance of immovable property or any interest in property. These are not covered. The Act is not applicable to these things. So far as the legality of the situation is concerned, information technology, in the reference of information technology, we have covered almost legal points. But what will you do after the post-pandemic? Even today, 50,000 cases have been reported. What does it mean? It is not good. It is not getting us. So, friends, this is very important time for all of us. Have devastating situation we had faced, and of course that able our Chief Minister and our Honorable Prime Minister, we shall win this war also. Thank you very much for listening to me very patient. Thank you.